Probably not lost on you that the rain stopped when she walked out.
Well, so it's funny that you said that because I grew up on a dairy farm. And so my summers were spent unloading hay. So my sisters and I would do a rain dance because that's the only way that could get us out of unloading hay was if it would rain. And it occasionally worked. So anyways, my name's Jennifer Lewis. Yes, I am running for office, but that's really not why I'm here today. And I'm going to apologize in advance because when I start talking about pipeline, I get very scattered and I go off tangents, and then so I'm going to need your help to bring me back if I don't finish a topic. So I'm going to start way back in the beginning. So I am president and founder of Friends of Augusta. I started Friends of Augusta the night of the first community meeting in Middlebrook, 5 years ago. I just went home and I literally started a Facebook page with the help of the Free Nelson group. We were Facebook friends, and they taught me how to start a page, helped me reach out to folks, and that's literally where it started. So I started organizing in Augusta County, and I called FERC. I called the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and said, I want to have a meeting with you. And they said, okay, come up to DC tomorrow, and we'll talk with you. So because we have the wonderful internet, I was able to do all this research, and I joke that I now have a PhD in pipelines because I know so much about pipelines that I never thought I'd ever know, ever need to know, ever cared to know about. And something that was so alarming to me was if you Google different people's names and the process of the whole pipeline world, all of these weird incestual connections started becoming clear. The daughter of this representative was on the board that approved this, and her husband was on this board. And it was this tangled web of all these people benefiting each other. And I was like, oh crap, we are in the fight of our lives. And it's because of all of us here and people who aren't here today who have fought together, stood united, that we've delayed this project by 4 years. This pipeline will not happen because of us standing together and saying, nope. And we can get discouraged. Yeah. Clap at that. And it's really easy to get discouraged. We have Dominion. We're going against Dominion. They have more money than all of us combined. And so it can be discouraging. But I want to really stress to everybody, and we need to take this out to our communities, is the only reason it's delayed is because of us. And the only reason it's going to stop is because of us. But the bigger picture, the reason we're in this situation is because we became too complacent. We got carried on with our lives, raising kids, doing stuff, working. We forgot to pay attention to who was in charge, who's sitting on all these boards and commissions. We have such a hard time getting people to run for office. And I'm not necessarily talking about Congress and president, local offices. Your board of supervisors, your city council, your board of zoning appeals. We were having a proposed, what do they call it, staging area in Churchville, right next to an organic farm. Dancing Stars happened last winter. So this project was going to put his organic certification in jeopardy. We all united and stopped that project. And it was because we put the pressure on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And this board is a volunteer board. These are not elected people. They do not get paid. We have the power. If we continue to show up and bring our friends and keep people engaged in this fight, we can win any fight, whether it's the pipeline or the next fight we're going to have. We have the power. Us, with the numbers, we can outweigh the money every day of the week. But it's the fact we got to keep showing up. And what keeps me energized in this fight after 5 years is every day, and I'm not even kidding, I'm not being dramatic at all. Every day I meet someone who's like, tell me about the pipeline. So I've been wearing this shirt all day, and because I'm running for office, I've been going about since 7:30 this morning. So I started at the Kiwanis Club breakfast in Waynesboro. This woman came up to me and she goes, I have not been paying attention to the pipeline. What's going on? So I tell her about the pipeline. Get through the breakfast line, I set my tray down, and my poor husband, he's so sick of the word pipeline. We have a new rule in the house that I can't say the word pipeline before 7 a.m. After that, it's all bets are off. Another person comes up to me. I haven't been paying attention to the fight. What's going on? What's going on? So every day we're meeting people who have been paying attention, maybe on the outskirts, maybe not at all. That's all right. But we're getting new people engaged every day. After the breakfast, I went to Staunton Earth Day. Again, what's the latest on the pipeline? What's going on? So every day we're getting new people engaged. So that should keep all of you motivated to keep this fight up. So not only am I doing Friends of Augusta, I also, before running, so I ran for Congress last year. Once I decided that, I had to step down from my board position on Wild Virginia. So I got involved with Wild Virginia. And through them, with a partnership with Trout Unlimited, I became a water monitor. So every month, the fourth Sunday of every month, if anybody ever wants to join me, my water partner and I, we go out and test water on 4 proposed stream crossings. 3 of them are on private property, 1 is on public property. So we've been testing for 4 years. We have all the data from every month for the last 4 years. And what's been really cool is we put our data on the internet, and other people are using our data to prove that trout can live in our streams year round. And so that's really exciting. So in Augusta County, I'm sure many of you know we have an E. coli problem in the Middle River. So I don't want to give you the picture of our water's completely clean and wonderful, because it's not. We've had cows in our streams creating an E. coli problem. We had DuPont dumping mercury in the South River for 50 years. So I don't want to say that our water is wonderful. But in terms of its turbidity, which is its clearness, which is what we test for every month, we test for conductivity. All of those things are excellent, at the top that you would want it at. And so about 4 years ago almost, I ran and was elected to the Headwater Soil and Water Conservation Board. So that board, oddly enough, and I'm going to go on a tangent for just a second, oddly enough, when I ran for that office, and mind you, it's the Soil and Water Conservation Board. When I ran for that office and won, my first meeting, sorry the men in the audience, predominantly male-dominated board said, you only got elected because of your pipeline, but don't get too excited, we're not going to do anything about it here. And immediately shut me down anytime I try to bring up the pipeline. And it became very clear after about 3 or 4 meetings that they were pretty pro-pipeline. And many of the people on the Soil and Water Conservation Board were being paid by Dominion.
Oh.
So that has been a really tough board to sit on. And since I'm running for office again this year, I can't run for re-election on that board. So if you live in Waynesboro, please talk to me. I would like for you to sit on that board. But that's where I go back again. We've got to start taking up these boards and commissions. We could stop the pipeline really a lot faster if we had these kind of boards and commissions backing us up. So if you are not currently sitting on a board, do it. Sign up, do it. It's 1 hour a month, maybe. We all can do that. So on this board, they won't listen to anything that I say about the pipeline, any of my concerns on the pipeline. We had Nancy Sorrells again come and talk and speak about, so we predominantly work with farmers. So if you put a 42-inch gas pipeline right here, that ground around it never freezes. That changes everything about that dirt and that soil forever. So some of the farmers, actually, that's what got them a little bit, all right, let me think about that. So you've got to kind of change your message based on who you're talking to and what you can kind of hook them into and then go with it. So on the Soil and Water Board, we get federal funding, state funding, to help farmers pay to fence out their cows from the streams. Like I said earlier, we've got an E. coli problem in our streams, especially Middle River. So we've spent millions of dollars to fence out our cattle from our streams. And we usually do about an 80-20 cost share. So we pay 80%, the farmer's got to pay 20. 20% doesn't sound like a lot, but to a farmer, it's a lot. So think about that. If I'm a farmer and I invest 20%, the state and the feds invest 80% to fence out my cattle, I'm doing the right thing for my water. We've seen the impacts of the Chesapeake Bay. And then we let a for-profit corporation come in and ruin all that hard work. So before I mentioned the South River, DuPont was able to dump mercury into the river for 40 years before they figured out it was a bad idea. When Governor McAuliffe was still governor, in December, so right as he was leaving, he came to Waynesboro to announce that they had gotten a settlement for $50 million. And so he walks into City Hall, and of course all of us had our jackets buttoned up, and as soon as he comes in, we're all in the front row. And he just gets up there and he is just patting himself on the back. We've been working so hard to get y'all $50 million. Say thank you, you are welcome. So afterwards, of course, I bolt right for him. His staff pushed me away, wouldn't let me talk to him. So I ran out the side and met him at his SUV. That's just how I did. So I said, Governor McAuliffe, it took us 40 years to get $50 million. How long is it going to take us to get money from Dominion after they ruin our water? $50 million, and that's not just to Waynesboro. That gets spread out. Front Royal, who is so far from where the contamination and the pollution happened, is getting money for a trout hatchery. Great, I love that, support that fully. But is that where that money should go? Waynesboro had 40 years of lost fly fishing revenue in tourism and recreation. There's no way that $50 million makes up for that. And here's Governor McAuliffe, pro-pipeline McAuliffe, wanting us to say thank you to him. And he never will step foot in Waynesboro again as long as I live there. But that's the hypocrisy of it all. That's the hypocrisy of it all. And they don't understand that we see that, but we've got to call it out. Now I forget that my tangent, where I left off, my tangent earlier. So water monitor, so I go out every month. Last year, maybe even a year and a half ago, I go out to the landowner, to their property to do water, and the landowner comes out, and he's got his 2 little kids with him, and he's got tears in his eyes. And he said, I just want to let you know, I've got loggers here. So he had already signed an easement with Dominion, and based on his situation, if I was living his life, I probably would have too. They live in poverty. So he had already signed with Dominion, and he was trying to make some extra money and contracted with a private logging company to come and log his land. So he's crying. You see that this has been a horrible decision for him to make. And I said, and he's apologizing to me and my water tester. I'm like, this is not my land. You do what you got to do for your family. I said, but what are you going to do if the pipeline's not approved? And I kid you, every time I tell this story, I get goosebumps and I hate myself. Because the man just sobbed. And he said, they told me it was approved. And it was like a dagger in my heart that I had to tell this man, it's not approved. I'm sorry. So we go down and test the lower creek. By the time we get up to the upper creek, he met us there and he sent the loggers home. Because he could not believe that Dominion, again, lied to him. And he said, Jennifer, I promise you I'll replant every tree that I had cut down.
Wow.
And still to this day, when we go back and test back there, both my water partner and I, we drive back there, and to see the clear cut, to see that devastation. And this is a land that I have barely a connection to. This is where I water test once a month. Not my land. And to see that. And my water partner and I always remark, we don't see the birds. We don't see the butterflies. And can you imagine being a member of the wildlife family and you come back to that area every year and then you come back to clear-cut devastation? And with this logging company, they left it completely messy. I mean, it's not like they clear-cut and cleaned it all up and raked it all up and it's a beautiful field to walk through. It's a disaster. You've got to walk, the whole time you're walking back to the creek, you've got to watch where you're walking. So it's completely heartbreaking and devastating. But what I want to share, maybe my last story, although like I told you guys, I get going, I can talk for hours on the pipeline. But what I really want to get to is the personal stories. So while running for Congress last year, we canvassed the entire pipeline route, proposed pipeline route. So we knocked on every door. I knock on this guy's door. He's an older gentleman in the Stewart's Draft area, and he opens the door and he recognizes me. Because if y'all don't know, if there's a video camera set up, I will jump in front of it and talk about the pipeline. So I've been on TV a lot and in the paper a lot. So he recognizes me and says, "Jennifer, I'm so glad you're here. So glad a nice young Republican woman is running for office." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm so sorry, I'm actually running as a Democrat." And he looked at me and he said, "How could you? Your party is the party of the pipeline."
Oh.
Think about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who are our biggest supporters and cheerleaders of the pipeline?
Yeah.
McAuliffe and Northam. Northam's not a true Democrat, let's be honest. He voted for George W. twice. Twice. But I want to leave you all with a sense of optimism and that we've got this, because we do. If we all continue to raise hell, if we continue to bring new people into this fight, our numbers will outweigh Dominion's money, millions and billions of dollars every day of the week. We cannot get complacent. We cannot think someone else will show up at that protest. Someone else will call Governor Northam about this. We have got to, each one of you, I'm going to make eye contact with each of you. We have to do this. When I'm out talking to people, climate change is the top of people's lists. Because think about it. We all care about healthcare, education, criminal justice reform, whatever it is. But if we don't have a planet to live on, what's the point of having universal health care? What's the point of having free community college if we don't have an environment for our children to grow up in? And if we allow a for-profit corporation to take us all, it might not be my land. It's not. I'm not an impacted landowner. It's not my land today. It will be tomorrow. So we've got to stand as strong as we've been standing since day one. I know we're tired. I see many faces in the crowd that have been there since day one, and I'm happy to see new faces too. We can and we will win. I 100% believe that. And while we fight for stopping the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, we cannot forget the fight that we've got going on in the Mountain Valley Pipeline. I was down in Roanoke last night for the Our Revolution endorsement party. And people are freaking out. I mean, people who are seeing the flooding, a pipeline just float down the river. The mud, the landslides. They can't believe that there's people living in trees, protesting and fighting. But that's what it takes. Each one of us has a unique responsibility of doing whatever we have in our own unique way. Not all of us can live in a tree. I'm definitely not going to live in a tree. I'll chain myself to your tree and get arrested, but I'm not living in a tree. So we all have our ways that we can impact this. So ways that you can impact this, letters to the editor. We still need to be educating people. I can't tell you how many people think. I constantly continue to fight with even people that are running for office, and they're Democrats running for office, that think we're getting the gas. I've attended a couple of the Dominion shareholders meetings Tom Farrell stood up 3 years ago and said, we've got 20-year contracts with Japan and India. That's where this gas is going. When people say, and even Democrats will say, well, what about the jobs? We are not getting the jobs. All of us here know that, so I'm not going to get into that. But we need to keep those letters to the editor in the paper about the myths of the pipeline. It matters. I just wrote, before running for this office, I had a column in the Waynesboro paper. In my last, what's this month, April, so March, was on the pipeline. And every time I write about the pipeline, the next day is all these letters disagreeing with me. So we need to keep those letters in the paper. Keep calling your elected officials every day. Not just Governor Northam. No, he's a lost cause. Let him, yes, keep calling him. We're not going to get anywhere with Northam. Call your board of supervisors, your city council members, your delegates. Every day. Every day. Takes 5 minutes. Do it on your lunch break. I call it lunchtime activism. Educate your neighbors. Talk to your God. Put that down. Stop.
I thought the baby wanted to use it.
Other than they're just lies.
It's Washington Post and DNR.
So look, this is what Dominion, so this is how you know we're winning, by the way. We're winning when Dominion spends money like this to put propaganda in the paper. We just made them spend money. It's great. This is great. Thank you. Keep talking to your neighbors and your friends. Be that annoying person. Any social event you go to, be that annoying person. Like, hey, have you heard about the pipeline? What's going on with the pipeline? I don't think I get invited to social events anymore because I talk about the pipeline all the time. But, I mean, there's still so many people who aren't engaged, don't know what's going on. I had some guy, he was coming to do the lines for somebody in the neighborhood wanted to put up a fence. And he sees my no pipeline sign, and he said, why are you against a pipeline for water?
Oh, man.
My God. So we have a lot of work to do. I know I'm probably missing a whole bunch of things because, like I said, I get going off on tangents about the pipeline. So I guess I'll take any questions from anybody, if anybody has any questions for me. But just make sure when you leave here today, reach out to 5 people today. 5 people. That's your homework assignment for me today. Talk to 5 people. And not just a random email, make a face-to-face phone call or face-to-face conversation with someone. Look them in the eye and make them see how passionate you are about this. How much is at risk for this? 42-inch gas pipeline. That's about a little bit bigger than a hula hoop. And you saw that pipeline that exploded in Durham, that was a 2-inch gas pipeline that killed people and leveled a building. And that happened because someone was digging and they didn't call misutility. So while we might think, oh, that was just somebody that made a bad mistake, that happens so often. So often people forget there's a pipeline underground, they start digging, and we have an explosion and people die. So, anybody have any questions?
How close is the proposed pipeline going to this Staunton Reservoir?
Oh, directly, if the reservoir's here, the pipeline's here. So that's why Staunton City Council actually passed an ordinance or I don't know if it's an ordinance or a proclamation or whatever the official terminology is in opposition to the pipeline. So I live in Waynesboro and I approached Waynesboro City Council about it. And they told me that they didn't want to offend Augusta County supervisors by stepping on their toes. We have a lot of work to do in Waynesboro. That's why I'm saying run for office, people. That is really important. Run for, please. If you have any interest in it, come talk to me. I will help you. Please run for office. Or sit on a board, or both.
Or do public education.
But if we can start serving in these roles where we can actually impact these different, lost for words, if we can impact different permits and that kind of stuff, We can have a big impact. And so, just to very, very briefly talk about my House of Delegates race I'm running in the 20th. The 20th district is the most heavily impacted district in terms of miles of pipes. We have 64 miles of proposed pipeline in the 20th district. The 20th district includes all of Highland County, parts of Nelson, parts of Augusta, and the cities of Waynesboro and Staunton. And in Highland County, I went to their tourism board meeting on Tuesday. Their entire county relies on tourism and recreation. I met a woman last year. I drove by her house. She had a Confederate flag in the back, Confederate flag in the front, Save Our Statues, and no pipeline. I pulled my car right into her driveway. And I knocked on her door. And I said, ma'am, we are not going to agree on 99%. But if you're against this pipeline, and she stopped me. She said, oh my God, I pray about it every day. If this pipeline happens, it will destroy Highland County. And so I tell her, I said, well, if you're against a pipeline, yeah, I'm a Democrat, but I'm the only anti-pipeline candidate in this race. She took my brochure. I'm not going to be naive enough to say that she voted for me, but she took my brochure. And then as I left, I said, well, I have a new no pipeline sign. Hers was kind of ratty and tore up a little. It obviously had been there for a while. So I gave her a new pipeline sign. And the next time I went back to Highland County, all the Confederate flags and the Save Our Statue signs are still there, but that new pipeline sign was in there too. So we might want to say, you know, Democrats are on the right side of this issue. We can't discount the Republicans and the independents and everybody else that might not align with the party that are against this pipeline for very different reasons, whether it's private property rights, tourism, whatever it is. We can't just say, oh, I already know that guy's a Republican, I'm going to already just discount him. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everybody.